Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. It is one that I did not expect to be making, as evidenced by the video that I published about 5 hours before Shadowlands was delayed. And that is the fact that yes, Shadowlands has been delayed. Blizzard have decided to delay the next expansion. It will not be releasing on the 27th of October this year. However, their post does say that it will release this year. Yeah. Blizzard have actually done it. You know, the video that we released yesterday, it's in that I said that I did not think it would be delayed, and the reason I thought that was because Activision, I really didn't think that that would actually be a flexible date for the team. I really thought that because they decided to split the pre-patch in two to get more time, that that was their response to the issues that they were facing. But no, it's clearly a situation where they do feel they need that extra time to develop the game. And that is indeed what Jonathan Haidt, the basically the sort of main producer of World of Warcraft, said in the post announcing this to the world. Essentially, they said that while they do feel that things like the level up experience and Torghast and a bunch of that is in a good state, ultimately, they feel that as interlocking parts of the expansion came together, particularly in the end game, that they agree with players' feedback, that it's not where it needs to be, and that the extra time that they're going to take because of this delay is going to be about polishing and balancing a lot of that stuff, particularly for the end game. This is so good for the quality of World of Warcraft. It really is. Now, the other thing that you should be aware of is that October 13th is the new date for the pre-patch, okay? So when October 13th comes around, you'll be getting the story content, the Scourge Invasion, the leveling revamp, Exile's Reach, all of that great stuff. So you will have fun World of Warcraft content, or at least some of it, to play pretty soon. But as for the expansion, no, they are delaying it. Now, as for when I think the expansion will come out, I mean, in my head, I'm thinking late November, early December, maybe January for the start of the raid tier. That's roughly what I'm thinking. And the reason behind that is just they need a fair whack of time. They do, right? I mean, the video that we did yesterday, if you ignore the bits where it's me saying, I don't think they'll do this because of corporate stuff, if you kind of go through the rest of that video, that really is just talking about all the reasons why I believe, and many beta testers believe, that Shadowlands should be delayed. And the list is very long, and that video is nowhere near exhaustive. And then there's just lots of like little polish problems, you know? There's one that we've noticed where there's like a whole bunch of skyboxes around Orbo that are just broken, right? They really stand out like a sore thumb. There's just loads of issues like that. They really needed the time to do this right. So we then have to wonder, what is all of this going to mean? What's actually happening? Well, a lot of it's because of endgame balance. Now, what that basically means is soul binds, which are going to be inherently very hard to change. The same, of course, goes for the Covenant ability lock. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the core stuff, and then I suppose some of the classes as well. A lot of tuning is needed in those. As you'll see in the regularly scheduled WoW News episode that I've already recorded, they have done a few tuning passes of that, a lot of nerfs, but it is just a situation where that's it. Such a hard system to get right. And, well, you know, Jonathan Haidt in the post does say that this is one of the most complex expansions that they've actually tried to do. Now, I think this is where a lot of the player base, myself included, would turn around and say, we don't want a complex systemic expansion. We want an expansion with lots of content to do on our characters and lots of ways to progress our characters. And I think that can actually be achieved in a way that does not have loads of interlocking systems that all have variance in each other. I mean, as an example, you know, you get some of those conduits that give you a percentage increase to the damage of a certain spell that you have. Well, that's going to have slightly different balance with the 4 different covenants. It's going to have different balance with the different legendaries that you get. And then because those things are percentage bonuses, as your gear increases, they're going to have really tough to get right scaling. There are so many problems. And I would say here, you know, a lot of people, when I've been making videos, they've just been saying, oh, you are just a hater. You and Preach and all you people, you're just doing this to get clicks. No, this game would have been a bit busted if it came out on October 27th. And let this be the damn proof that Blizzard agree, that Blizzard actually agree with the beta testers. Right? The beta testers said it's not ready. Blizzard have basically now looked at that and just been like, yeah, you're right. It's not ready. We need more time. And they've managed to get that time. Now, I'm also imagining that right now, you know, Jonathan Haidt and Ian Hazzikostas are probably just they're probably just covered head to toes and, you know, in bruises as they had to go into the Activision boardroom and just beat the whatever out of people. But no, jokes aside, I mean, that was a big thing for them to accomplish, right? I have to imagine that there was probably a lot of pushback in them trying to actually get this delay. And I think there's a decent amount of evidence to support that, right? Like, instead of announcing the delay early, what happened is they basically had to, you know, split the pre-patch in two. My personal suspicion is they did that as, you know, the best they could do with what they had, because it was pretty unprecedented. And then, you know, as the weeks rolled on, it became increasingly clear that that would not be enough. And I think that is probably what forced their hand to make that delay, because gotta be real here, if you're delaying your big product 27 days before release, or 26 days before release, that obviously was not planned out well in advance, right? Was it? No. This was delayed pretty much to the last hour. Not the last hour, literally, but, you know, in the very last stretch anyway. And that's not normally what you see with game delays, right? It's normally something communicated more in advance. And I think that if they could have done this earlier, they probably would have. I think they were only able to actually get a delay for Shadowlands when it became abundantly clear to everyone involved that it would have severe launch issues if it was to go live in the state that it was in. And I think that's what probably earned them their delay. Because realistically speaking, if all the beta testers are sitting there saying, oh, this isn't ready, here's the thing. Ian and the crew are, you know, they know what's up, right? They will know about problems weeks before we know about the problems, because they will actually see these things coming. So I think that, you know, ideally they probably would have wanted to have announced this delay like a decent bit ago, right, earlier, but I think it just was a situation where this is really as soon as they could actually, you know, get their delay internally and actually, you know, say that it was going to happen. So in terms of what I want to see from this, that's an interesting question. You know, it's that sort of thing where we're not going to have a delay because it is going to come out this year. Now, there was one person on Twitter did tell me that their collector's edition pre-order on the Blizzard store moved from December 31st or sooner to January 31st, 2021 or sooner. Now, the post actually does say that Shadowlands will be coming out this year, so I just have to assume that. Now, if you were to go to me and ask what I would want, I would ideally say massively simplified conduits, remove the 7-day lock, and decouple Covenant choice from access to player power. That's what I would say if I was given that opportunity in general. But the thing is, with the amount of time that we're dealing with here, I do just think that Blizzard will have to, I think they'll just have to polish things and balance things. I think that really is what's going to happen. So as much as I might have some wish list that in the next few weeks, Ian's going to hammer out, or not him literally, but, you know, the team's going to hammer out a ripcord, then pull it. As much as there's a bit of me that thinks that would be the sort of good pragmatic move, given the timelines involved, I think that this is far less about doing anything super big and ambitious. I think it's far more about taking Shadowlands as it is right now, and in, say, maybe the 6 extra weeks that they have, you know, just getting things as balanced as they possibly can. Now, I think there's going to be a lot of balance via nerfing and things like that, but right now I think the name of the game is let the really bad, I would say, misguided and not particularly good design decisions, have them be diminished in prominence so that the things that are good, which is, you know, the leveling, the content, Torghast, the dungeons, the raids, all of that stuff, to let that shine. That is what I would really hope for. And then maybe a patch 9.1, I would like to see that Covenant ability, you know, lock go away so that you can be a Kyrian and just select between what set of things you want to use. I do think that is a long-term option that they should do, but what I personally suspect is this will just come down to iteration. Now that's, or, you know, like iteration and polish over the sort of current tuning. Now, that said, in terms of other things, what I would really like to see as well is for the team to take a look at, say, you know, the Maw, right? Because there has been iteration on the Maw, but it still is feeling a little bit barren, a little bit bare. I would just like to see a lot more thought go in there. You'll see in the next WoW News episode that I've got, you know, there are some concerns over the Stygia farm, so I think now there's a bit more time. Maybe thinking about the exact implementation of the Stygia farm would be a good idea, just so that, you know, so they're not really encouraging like sort of benthic-like systems. I think that would be a good move for Blizzard to make as well. You know, my perspective here is that Shadowlands truly can be a great expansion. It's just that if it had have shipped on the 27th of October, there would have been pain points, right? And it would not have been a smooth launch. Now, here's what I'm going to say to you, especially if you're not a top-end style player who cares about those things. If you only care about just doing casual content and all that jazz, what you have to understand is that the endgame stuff impacts you directly. A lot of development time goes into things like making mythic raids, making heroic raids, balancing all of these various different systems. That takes up developer time. And if those features, even if they don't matter to you, if they launch in a state where they are borked, like Azerite gear did, then what happens to the development resources of Blizzard? Well, they're now stuck dealing with a whole bunch of technical and design debt, trying to fix these problems in a live environment. What that means is that our development resources going to cool, exciting new content that you want to see through an expansion's lifetime? I mean, they will be a bit, right? But a whole bunch of them will have to be diverted to putting out fires. We saw this with Battle for Azeroth. We did, right? The amount of time it took Blizzard to, do their changes to gearing, their changes to Azerite, gear acquisition, all of the patch 8.1 stuff, the various different band-aid fixes they had to do, things like essences, Essences were obviously not the intent going into BFA. Essences were there because basically they nerfed the hell out of the Azerite gear level requirements. They basically admitted that Azerite gear was a failure with patch 8.2, so they had to put a new system in. The amount of time that it took into making those abilities and balancing and all of that jazz, what could those team members have been doing if they weren't caught trying to fix the problems of a launch that happened too early? Imagine if BFA had another 6 weeks, and maybe in that 6 weeks, they were able to respond to beta tester feedback. There's a whole bunch of people that say that Blizzard were just ignoring beta testers, they were pig-headed, yada, yada, yada. I remember Taliesin saying that, devs had sort of said to him in person that, they basically knew the Azerite system was in a really bad state, but they kind of just had to ship it the way that it was. Well, imagine if they didn't. Where would WoW be now if they just had 8 more weeks to do BFA? And that in that 8 weeks, they could have, changed the Azerite gear reforging, just totally changed elements of that system instead of this very first pass version that had obvious flaws that we ended up with that then resulted in just 6 months, 8 months of just development time going into fixing problems, meaning that if you actually just wanted a bunch of content in World of Warcraft, you didn't get that much of it throughout BFA. I mean, come on. It would have been so much better of a situation, and the fact that they've actually taken the decision to delay Shadowlands does make me think that while we will have teething issues, we will have little problems here and there in Shadowlands. Sure, I do think we will, because I think there are just inherent flaws in the current designs that they are married to at this stage, but I do think the most egregious pain points can be removed, and I think if they are removed, then we will be in a far more healthy situation where the launch will be more successful, which will mean that resources that are sort of put towards what patch 9.1 and 9.2 are supposed to be, that those resources won't be slurped up by making something new to fix the problems of launch in those patches, which of course would hurt what those patches could ideally be. So this is potentially great. What I would basically love to see is, for the Covenant abilities, there's just got to be, I think, some things that need a little bit of a redesign, and then just a whole bunch of balance work. In an ideal world, I do think that ripcord could be built and pulled, but I doubt that's going to happen. So right now, I think just fix that stuff up. The next thing, conduits. That 7-day lock has got to go. It seriously does. What happens if you want to play multiple specs? What happens if you get a new conduit and you want to try it out on the soulbind that you enjoy for your spec, but your soulbind is on cooldown for 5 days? Then the new bit of loot that you just got from a raid is something that you can't use for 5 days. What design is that? What's going on? Are we in Crazy Town? It's ridiculous and silly. That needs to go. So here's a bit of the point here. That would be easy to fix. Surely it would not take that long to remove that restriction, right? So here's the thing. There are, I think, if you just go through the beta forums and stuff, there's a grab bag of easy, nice quality of life changes that Blizzard can make. So they got to make those. They got to balance what's there. If they do that, Shadowlands will be in a better position as it launches. So that's basically my thoughts on this. This is great. I'm very, very, very happy about it. Of course, there are people who are unhappy about it. I saw somebody kind of be like, wow, look what you did, as a response to this happening in the context of the video we released a few hours before the delay was announced, which I thought was quite funny, as if we had anything to do with that. But I saw a lot of people being super pissed that Blizzard did this because it interacted with their holiday time. Of course, it's a situation where for some employers, they're, reasonable and not dickheads about that sort of thing. But there are some employers who are big dickheads about holiday time. And, now that it's just a whole, that's the whole thing. But, for a lot of those people, they're screwed. They are screwed. And I think that is something that Blizzard will be super aware of and that a lot of Blizzard devs will feel really bad about. And I think that Blizzard are aware of that to the point where a whole bunch of Blizzard's development team probably knew that this expansion needed a delay, and they probably wish that that delay could have been announced sooner so that less people would be caught by that. Because, I just think that's obvious, right? If beta testers, for the last sort of 2-3 weeks have just been saying, lads, we need a delay, then Blizzard must have been thinking, shit, we really need a delay for, weeks before that, right? Because they, I think they make some very silly design decisions from time to time, but I also don't think they're stupid. I think they saw the writing on the wall. And what I really think here is that I'd actually say a lot of the devs on that team, hey, even the Ripcord, chances are, if you're a pro Ripcord person like I am, the Covenant Ability Lock, do remember, chances are 35-40% of the World of Warcraft development team agrees with you. It is actually a diverse group of people with, lots of diverse opinions about where the game should be going. Ultimately, that consensus has to be made, but still, I think there's a lot of people on that team who were probably advocating for some form of delay, and what they really needed, right, was ammunition from the players. They needed the players to actually validate their concerns to the higher-ups to actually get that delay. That's really what I think would be going on internally in a place like that. So what I'd say here is, beta testers, I think this is what the beta's for, If this was a beta test where Blizzard didn't listen to the beta testers, or, it wasn't really just a good test, then this expansion would have came out too early. It would have been in it just would have had big problems. And that would have hurt World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft cannot have another Battle for Azeroth. I don't think it can in general. Certainly, it can't follow up a Battle for Azeroth with another Battle for Azeroth tier failure. So, yeah, I do think Shadowlands is fundamentally better than BFA. Think about BFA's design experiments, right? Warfronts, rubbish. Islands, rubbish in effect, even though they could have been sort of better. Torghast is awesome. So I think Shadowlands is fundamentally in a better place, but still, it could have been tanked by some of that balance being really bad. I still think it would be better off with different fundamental designs. And ultimately here, if I actually pull out my telephone and I go to this, right, and I look at the bit where Jonathan talks about tuning the end game, because it's like a pretty complex expansion. Here's what I'm going to say. That complexity is doing you no favors. There's not really any interesting decisions there. A lot of people they've got their straw mans and whatever opinions they've got, but a lot of those people aren't testers. The people who are testers, who have actually seen the lore, are saying this whole Covenant sort of ability lock doesn't make much sense in the context of the lore. The Covenants are all pals. Maldraxxus and Revendreth are helping each other out throughout their campaign. What I'd say is, Blizz, kiss, keep it simple, stupid. How many times do I have to tell these... how many times do I have to look at this camera and just start screaming kiss like an absolute madman? Keep it simple, right? I don't really like how it's keep it simple, stupid. The stupid's a little bit extra, a bit mean, but that's kind of the acronym that, whatever industry we all sort of settled on. Maybe less of these problems would happen if Blizzard were actually just a little bit less ambitious systemically, and then I would say a bit more ambitious content-wise, because I think that content side of things can scale up in a more production-friendly manner than a lot of this systems design stuff. Because I think with these systems, the more heads you throw at the problem, the more it all just gets complex and complex and complex and just rife with issues, as we've experienced. Anyway, that's it for me. My core thing is World of Warcraft development team. I'm extremely happy that you've been allowed to do this. One thing, crunch, obviously the sad part of this is they've probably been extremely crunchy over the last few weeks, maybe months, and I doubt that's going to alleviate with whatever delay happens. So my sympathies are there. Ultimately, when crunch happens, it's because of bad management. Right? And I think that the timeline for this expansion did not make sense given the mechanical complexity of what the team attempted to do. Therefore, it should have had a different release date in the first place, or it should have had a different fundamental design that could have matched an October 27th release date. So some lessons to be learned there, but overall, I'm super happy. WoW team, I think next time you're going to do an expansion, see that borrowed power? Ratchet it down. Keep on ratcheting it down. Your next WoW expansion should be far more simple than this one, but what we get in return for that simplicity, I think, should be more content, more things to do, you know, more like little one-off reputations like Cloud Serpent and one-off things here and there, right, that are, you know, just cool, unique, fun things instead of, you know, just the mountains and mountains of borrowed power. So, I mean, I think that's everything. Obviously, if you're somebody who's been affected by this in a negative way because of, you know, your paid time off that you've booked, then I feel terrible for you. That sucks, especially for your employer, is not going to allow you to change that. That's bad. There's no way about that. I think that on balance, as much as that sucks, I think that is worth not having World of Warcraft have a period of major damage over the next while, because after BFA, I think any damage that sort of hits the game, I think it'll stick, right? They can't have that. This is buying us, ideally, a smoother 2 years. Short-term pain for long-term gain. I think that's probably sort of the greater good there. Anyway, look, that's it for me. TLDR, happy. This is very good. WoW devs, good luck. I hope you're able to stay healthy and happy throughout this continued progress process, and I hope that your efforts are, that it all pays off, that it's all good, and you don't get burnt out or have management put ridiculous expectations, so I hope it's all good for the devs. Certainly, I think for the players and the game side of things, this is obviously the right move. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.